President Bola Tinubu has approved the takeoff of the first phase of the Consumer Credit Scheme. The credit scheme would enable willing working-class Nigerians to access loan facilities to meet their needs and repay over time. In many climes, credit schemes serve as the lifeblood of modern economies as they enhance citizens' quality of life by helping them access goods and services upfront. Well, presidential spokesman Ajuri Ngelale explains that the scheme would facilitate purchasing homes, vehicles, education and healthcare. In line with the president's directive, the Nigerian Consumer Credit Corporation, that's Credit Corp, has also launched a portal for Nigerians to express interest in receiving consumer credit. Working Nigerians interested in receiving consumer credit can visit www.creditcorp.ng to express interest. Well, the scheme will be rolled out in phases, starting with civil service members and cascading to members of the public.
Well, let's bring in Steve Nwachukwu. He's an economist. He's a financial analyst and lead researcher at Steward Asset Management Limited. Good to see you and thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
You know, this is one of the key things many Nigerians have longed for. It's quite different from the days of the hire purchase, but this one is a credit scheme. You build your credit and, well, you take it from there. But again, let's break it down for those who are first-timer, because this is the first time getting this in the country, perhaps, as to what this is about and how they can plug in.
Well, I think it's a commendable move, but to say it's a first-timer, but in the phase of what the introduction, it takes a first-timer. But it has been, we've had a couple of other schemes that perhaps gives Nigerians opportunity, like the National Housing Scheme, where you make contribution and you're entitled to have allocation.
No, this specifically, let's not lose it. This specifically is about commodities.
That's it. That's why I said this is in another phase.
Yeah. So it's the first time?
Yeah, yes, this is the first time of having it. You can buy other products, you can buy food items, you can buy house, you can buy cars, you can buy... Like I was trying to lay emphasis or a background that we have a couple of schemes of this nature that also give Nigerians access in advance. This is just having a credit. The key word there is credit. Right. Having access to money that you don't have earlier. Like in your health scheme, you have access to health hospitals, which is the money you have to pay for those drugs because you have already insured in that scheme. You can be able to actually have those services. Like we have in the housing, once you make the contribution, you have access to housing. So this is to expansion of it to other commodities, consumable commodities, which is laudable. Considering the hardship Nigerians are passing through. So it's laudable that we have such that gives a wider approach to it so that Nigerians will also have opportunities to be able to buy those bags of rice or buy those commodities, those essential items that perhaps you needed them in bulk, like you can also need to buy cars. There's opportunities for Nigeria as we speak.
Right, but I wonder if this extends to food stuff and what have you. From what we know so far, vehicles, homes and all of that. Do you think Nigeria, with what you say, I mean, there have been similar schemes and then this credit core, are we gradually moving to a credit economy? How is that going to help both the individual and the economy at large? And what role do you think financial institutions can play here?
Well, of course, it's a good one, like I said earlier. Considering the fact that our credit to GDP ratio is somewhere around 14.1%, one of the world lowest, any programs around this very improving the credit to GDP, giving Nigerians opportunities to also increase their disposable income is a good one. Yes, the banks has to key in if there is any opportunities for the banks to actually key in. I don't know where the money is going to be domiciled. I don't know, but by the time the federal government unveils most of these activities, just like the portal will be able to know what are the criteria, what are the authorization threshold, what are the levels of authorization, just like I know that if you just have your NI NIN is enough, is your qualification.
National identification number.
So once you have that, you have access to it. And what qualifies you also as a federal civil servant or any state civil servant or local government civil servant, because it's civil service. So it comprises both federal government, state government civil servant, and local government civil servant. So it's a wider one that gives Nigerians opportunity.
Well, in this very one, it is quite novel. That is why it's exciting, and the more reason we're discussing this, because for the first time, this is going into commodities, you know, and food stuff. Back in the day, you remember how locally, within the streets, the people have on their own created a credit scheme. Go to
scheme.
Absolutely.
Cooperatives.
Yes.
That's it, spot on. But now this is coming from the government. In as much as this is something that we understand will guarantee wholesale lending to financial institutions dedicated to broadening consumer credit access, how do you think that these financial institutions can adequately not lose out in the face of, I think with the NIN, we still see some people shortchange the system. Some people, you know by now, some people take credit from their data provider and their telcos. And sometimes they just abandon that phone line for a moment and perhaps move on. So how can the financial institution not get into such very unsettling quagmire?
Oh, for sure. I know for sure that, yes, the government is reacting to the credit needs of Nigerians. And given the fact that in recent times, you've had a couple of fintech companies coming out giving, so there is actually need for Nigerians to widen the credit scheme or widen the credit accessibility to Nigerians. So what government did is quite okay. Now, the question is, in existence, there are both privately run programs of such natures, like we talked about the fintechs, that in fact the federal government was even climbing down of such kind of credit facilitators who perhaps, you know, did some things that is not good or to the image of Nigerians, the way they went about recovering their money and all that. So the angle government should focus more now is the barriers. Those barriers, those limitations, those things that kind of get a dishonesty to the program. Now the financial institutions are there just to drive it. They will be the access point to most of these very, because most of the banks accounts you own are domiciled with one bank or the other. So definitely the financial banks will be involved. Both the microfinance bank and the rest will be actively involved. But it's a question of the driver of this very policy, like I talked about, which is reducing those barriers. Like I asked the question, what is the authorization level? Is it from the IPs? Which is who that pays the salary? Because the collateral here is because you're a civil servant.
Well,
so
many questions to ask. I'm sure with time this will unveil and we'll, you know, get a clearer picture of what the credit scheme, the credit loan scheme is all about. Thank you very much, Steve Nwachukwu. Is an economist joining us on News.